you by Geico. And there is Josh Tolley with .328 this year at Binghamton in Double-A. Only his second year as a full-time catcher. Corey Sullivan is a nice series back home in Denver, is in the lineup as well. They'll all be facing Jason Marquis, who's still making his way in from the bullpen.
Yeah, that's a live shot, folks. So this game's around 5 minutes from start, so that can give me a little time to get you brushed up on Jason. Jason this year broke the record, franchise record for the Rockies, with 11 first-half wins. As I said earlier, he's 4-4 the last 2 months of the season, third in the National League. This year, 7-1 in day games, 2.63 earned run average. Not a guy that throws hard, but he's a real battler. He's been traded around everywhere he goes, and it does nothing to win.
I thought you had more to say
about
Jason.
Just trying to kill some time.
Josh Tolley was sitting in front of his locker for about 3 hours before the game today, and he just looked so nervous. And guys kept coming over trying to laugh with him and break the tension a little bit. But it's got to be so nerve-wracking. It's hard enough to make your major league debut, but when you're a catcher, there's got to be so much more on your mind as well.
Well, a catcher has much more responsibility. He's got to call the ball game. I'm sure I'd be very curious. We'll watch closely to see if Josh is going to call the game today, or will he be looking into the dugout and getting signs and have a coach call the game for him. I remember my first start, and it's always nerve-wracking here.
Well, there's where the Rockies are at right now, with the Dodgers losing last night. The Rockies are 4.5 back in the West. They lead the wild card by a game over the Giants, who shut out the Phillies last night. Giants and Phillies play again tonight. Tim Lincecum will go for the Giants against Pedro Martinez in that game in Philadelphia.
And the Ford Rocky defense. That's Iannetta gets his first start of the series here, and also in right field, Ryan Spielborgs will get his first start in this series. And there you have it. I can't add any more to that, Gary.
Jason Marquis, born in Manhasset, grew up in Staten Island, went to Tottenville High School, got to pitch at Shea Stadium while he was in high school in a PSAL championship game. In fact, he pitched in 2 PSAL championship games, one at Yankee Stadium and one at Shea Stadium. And first came up with the Atlanta Braves. You know, the Braves for years had such a great triumvirate of pitchers with Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz, and for a long time they had Steve Avery as their fourth guy, but it was always so hard for them to nurture a fifth starter, and a lot of very good pitchers went through there in Atlanta, whether it was Jason Schmidt or Denny Nagel or Marquis, and all of them seem not to fit in that rotation in that 5-hole, but have gone on to good careers since.
Well, it's an interesting note here on Marquis. Of the 14 wins, his ERA is 1.78, and that's over 121 innings pitched. In his 8 losses, 8.79 earned run average. So when he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it. And when he does, he's very tough to beat.
Mets beat Marquis at Citi Field back in late July. He pitched pretty well, 6 innings, 3 runs, 2 of them earned. Angel Pagan will lead things off, and we've noted just the success that Pagan has had leading off in the first inning, and there's the number. He's hitting .373 leading off the first inning. He had a double to get things started for the Mets last night, and he had a single in the first inning in the first game of the series. Trying to get off to a similar start this afternoon against Marquis, whose first pitch is in for a called strike. Pagan hitting .297 overall. 6 for 13 over the last 3 games. And he's got those reflector shades on a sunny day in Denver. 1-1 to Pagan. Anderson Hernandez in the 2-hole today, with Luis Castillo getting the day off. And then David Wright here in the opening inning. And Pagan swings and misses. 1-2.
Very good slider right there. 1-1 slider, 2 sinkers away. Watch this thing, down and in. That's a tough pitch to hit.
And Pagan slaps one down to third, where Ian Stewart gathers it. 1 away. So Pagan grounds out for the first out of the afternoon. And it'll bring up Anderson Hernandez. Hernandez playing second base today, which is his natural position. He's been playing most of the shortstop over the last several weeks. But every time he plays second base, he just looks a whole lot more comfortable.
Valdez is also an accomplished shortstop, so it gives the Mets much better defense up the middle. This is the first time that Hernandez has batted second in the order for the Mets since coming over from the Nationals.
Anderson was the full-time second baseman for the Nationals earlier this year. David Wright waiting on deck. Well, David not wearing the double flap helmet today.
Is that the regular helmet or the?
No, it's the new one, but it's the single flap. Last night he wore the double flap when he pinch hit. 1-2 to Hernandez.
I'll have to get a closer look at it. Looks early right now. The two sliders that Marquis has thrown have been right to the spot. Very interesting delivery. Maybe we can take a look at it here. The next pitch, folks at home watching how he begins his windup. It's a little unique. He square shoulders right to the look how he goes here. Look at that. Turns his shoulder real quick. Another good slider.
Gets Hernandez for the second out. First strikeout for Marquis, who does not strike out many these days.
Well, not a strike, but it starts out as a strike. That's three good. Look how he. That's just so strange. It's almost like he's throwing from a stretch. And it's very interesting the fact that he squared off at home plate with both feet on the rubber facing the hitter. And then he does this left foot forward thing. Interesting.
Keith, I think you're right. I think David has
He's
ditched the new helmet.
He's had enough.
Well, he's talked the last couple of days about how it didn't fit properly, and he may be waiting until they can resize it for him. But you're right. He has gone back to the regular batting helmet.
Well, he got on the Jimmy Kimmel show last night. I think that was the end of it right there. That put an end to it.
What was that?
Well, Jimmy Kimmel had a little short on the helmet. Made reference to the great Gazoo. So I talked to Charlie Samuels yesterday, and Charlie said that helmet needs a little reworking.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that he's ditched it permanently. I think that David is very committed to, wearing the safer helmet, particularly after getting sculled by Matt Cain. They're still getting the kinks out. Low and away, and it's 3-1 to Wright. David started the opening game of this series on Tuesday, went 1 for 3, appeared as a pinch hitter last night, and grounded out in the 9th inning. Daniel Murphy waiting on deck. By the way, if you were with us last night, you remember Houston Street did not close for the Rockies. They used Franklin Morales instead. As Wright skies one to right field, Spilborg's moving over, took a bad route, now in foul ground, he can't make the play.
Wow.
He was going back and then realized that ball was going to be closer to the line and had to take a turn. And too late.
You can see his shadow behind him. He had to work against that sun, too. But he misread this ball. This should have been an out.
So Spilborgs does not make the play. They do not charge an error. And Wright's at bat continues. Anyway, Houston Street reported after the game he had biceps tendonitis, and he's going to miss a few days. And, of course, Street is a huge piece for the Rockies in their stretch run. 3-2 to Wright. Hit hard, but right at the second baseman, Barmas. It eats him up, but he has plenty of time to stay with it. And Marquis has a 1-2-3 inning. Pat Mish to the mound, no score. changes today. Clint Barmes moves up to the 2-hole. Chris Ionetic does the catching. Ryan Spilborghs plays right field. Carlos Gonzalez leads off, one of 5 left-hand hitters in the lineup today against the Mets lefty Pat Mish.
Well, Pat Mish, second start. Off a good one in Chicago, as we told you. Acquired from the Giants earlier in the year. He's done a spectacular job for the Mets.
Made 19 relief appearances this year between the Giants and the Mets before getting that start in Chicago. Gonzalez has been a red-hot hitter, hitting .366 since the All-Star break. And in fact, since the All-Star game, Gonzalez leads the National League in slugging percentage, just a shade over .700.
Don't say.
He's been hitting leadoff lately for the Rockies, with Dexter Fowler out with a knee injury, and he rips the 0-2 breaking ball into right field for a hit. So Gonzalez aboard to start the bottom of the first.
And Alexis Metsy defense. See the last 2 seasons right there. 164 games at catcher in the minors. How about that? So you're young, you can play every day. And Mr. Tolle is behind the plate. Good luck, young man, your first major league start.
Here's Clint Barmes with a runner aboard. Well, last night Tim Redding retired the leadoff hitter in every inning. In Pat Mish's first start in Chicago, he retired the leadoff batter in every inning. But Carlos Gonzalez breaks that up, and Barmes pushing a bunt foul. Barmes 1 for 7 in this series.
I like this Rocky team. You know, the one thing the Rockies do, they do build from within their farm system. There's Tim Redding right there, threw a fine ball game last night. Kind of a hard luck, no decision, but now 3 back-to-back good starts. Jim Tracy got his troops playing just tremendous for him.
Well, they've done everything pretty well. They've pitched well, they've hit well, they've fielded very well.
They've got home products. They go out of their farm system. They develop.
Gets away from Tolle, and down to second base goes Gonzalez. So Josh Tolle in his first major league inning behind the plate lets one squirt by.
Well, he's got the spotlight on him. I'm sure he feels bad about this. Oh, he did the glove the wrong way. That's got to be a pass ball.
That's how they've scored it. So a runner in scoring position. They called that pitch a strike. And it's 0-2 to Barmes, with Gonzalez at second and nobody out. Valdez trying to keep him close. And Barmes takes the fastball high. Well, Tolle was not a full-time catcher until last year. And in fact, going into last season in single A ball in St. Lucie, he was the backup catcher. That's how lightly regarded Tolle was. But he has come a long way in a short period of time. Reached for and fouled. And talking to Jerry Manuel before the game today, the Mets are aware that Tolle still needs a lot of work behind the plate with his receiving, with his throwing. But Jerry said a month working with Sandy Alomar Jr. here at the big league level will not be the worst thing for Tolle in terms of refining his catching skills.
Well, he's going to also have Sandy Alomar Jr., the big instructor for him. Tremendous catcher in his day.
There's some notes on Tolle, who grew up in Southern Illinois.
And Southern Illinois means if you're below Peoria, you are a Cardinal fan. If you're above Peoria, Illinois, you're a Cub fan. Peoria is right in the middle of the state, north and south-wise.
So
and it's a divided team.
Who do the people of Peoria root for?
It's a divided town.
Kind of like Hartford.
Like New York.
Well, okay. But they talk about Hartford as being the dividing line between the New York fans and the Boston fans.
I've been in Peoria several times when I was a Cardinal. They always have a great banquet up there.
Well, this is an interesting combination here because, you know, Mish grew up in the Chicago suburbs, big Cub fan.
That's right.
And Tolle grew up, 45 minutes from St. Louis, big Cardinal fan. And just see how they get along.
Just think he wasn't even born in '82 when we won the World Series in St. Louis.
Well, for that matter, he was not born when you won the World Series in '86. In fact, Tolle was born the day after Game 7. He was born the day of the parade.
Right.
October 28th, 1986.
So when his mom went into labor with him, I was out till 4 in the morning with Bob Ojeda.
I'm sure she was thinking of you, too. Out the way. Uppermost in her mind. Todd Helton waiting on deck. Pat Mish has come out throwing strikes. Used that good cutter against the right-hand hitters in Chicago. Popped up, shallow right, long run for anybody to get there. Right along the line, it goes foul.
Well, Mish is not overpowering, and you don't have to throw hard to get people out. But there's one thing that's a constant, and I think Mr. Darling will agree, is that no matter how hard you throw, you have to throw inside. And that sets everything else up. You just can't live off the outside corner. Just the guys that aren't overpowering have to be much more refined.
And the development of that cutter has allowed him to pitch more inside. Goes away and gets Barmes swinging for the first out. A 9-pitch battle, and Mish wins that one away.
Well, fastball away. They wanted it in. Missed outside. Barmes fished.
So 1 out. Gonzalez still at second, and here's Todd Helton, who's 4 for 8 in this series. He's been just red hot, hitting .420 over the last 15 games, and now third in the National League in batting. And Helton takes inside ball 1.
Pretty much straight up on the defense. You see Valdez holding Gonzalez close.
On the outside corner, 1-1. Todd Helton, who's been holding down first base for the Rockies for a dozen years. Troy Tulowitzki waiting on deck. And he should be manning shortstop for the Rockies for the next dozen. Lifted to left center. Over goes Sullivan to call. And that's the second out. And Gonzalez has to hold at second. So Mish bouncing back nicely after the leadoff hit. Now 2 out in the inning. And here is Tulowitzki. Jerry Manuel was asked today about what he thought about the Rockies, and he said, well, the Rockies are one of the better teams we've played this year. And he was asked why, and the first words out of his mouth were the shortstop. I think everybody who watches Troy Tulowitzki can't help but be impressed with just about every aspect of his game. A big shortstop who hits for power. Great arm. Just 23 years old with great leadership skills. Seems to do something to help his team win just about every day.
You know, the Mets have contained him offensively. He got 2 hits last night, 1 hit the first night. But boy, he's played sparkling defense. You know, that's the thing. If you can play both ends of the field, if you're not hitting, then you help your team out with your glove. There's that's the most important thing. You don't want to be a one-dimensional player.
Had a great rookie season 2 years ago, was hurt and ineffective last year, and got off to a slow start this year, but boy, has he come on. Since the 25th of July, he's hitting .375. 24 home runs, the most among major league shortstops. One for Mish. Popped it up. Anderson Hernandez shading his eyes. Valdez trying to call him off, but Hernandez will stay with it. And that'll do it for the Rockies. So Mish works around a leadoff hit and a pass ball. And we go to the second on a gorgeous day in Denver. Mets and Rockies, no score. Daniel Murphy leads off the second inning for New York, and Jason Marquis misses for ball one. Murphy 0 for 3 in this series, hitting at .258 on the year.
Been a little more difficult this year, the full season for Daniel. I know last year he came up and just took the National League by storm the last, what, 6 weeks, was it, Gary?
Yep. Well, this was his time of year last year.
A good slider down and in there. Trying to look at young Daniel's numbers. There's the hard slider. He's locating well. 128 games. He's got 411 at bats. So it looks like he's going to get 500 at bats.
Well, I think the difference this year, obviously pitchers have adjusted to him, but also Daniel's been a lot less discerning this year. Last year, you know, he looked like he was focused on what he could hit and swung at that. And he seems to be swinging at a lot of pitches that he's not capable of putting in play this year.
Well, there's so much is psychological. You know, you come up and you catch lightning in a bottle and no one can get you out, and all of a sudden, you know, the next time around, they know your weaknesses.
Ripped into right field. Spilborghs goes over, can't get to it, and can't cut it off, and Murphy will get 2. So Daniel Murphy with a leadoff double to get the Mets started in the second, his 29th double of the year.
Didn't get this ball in. Catcher set up in. Oh boy, right out over the plate. Murph covers it. Right there, that ball's full extension. One thing Murph does, he does 95% of the time, no matter how much they pitch him in, he will not bail. And he is pretty much stubborn with his approach at the plate. And stubborn may not be the right word.
Consistent.
Thank
Jeff
you.
Francoeur, homered in the game last night, his only hit in this series. Jeff hitting over 300 as a Met at .301, 7 home runs and 31 RBIs in 47 games with New York. And Marquis falls behind him 2-0. This was Francoeur's home run last night.
Well, he got a hanging breaking ball and he launched it. That's 390 out there. That's a long way.
That's the last run the Mets got against Ubaldo Jimenez, who pitched a gem of a game for 8 innings. And wound up with his 13th win.
He was impressive.
Hit to right center, not very deep. Murphy will go back to tag. Gonzalez grabs it, but Murphy's going nowhere, and that's the first out.
You know what I've seen of Gonzalez out in center field, he hasn't got a great arm, but he's got a strong enough arm out there. He's got a lot of natural ability. He covers a lot of ground out there. He's got good speed.
Even that throw he made on Tuesday when he bounced it off the back of the mound was an accurate throw.
Yes, it was.
Just got a bad break on it.
I like him. He's got a chance to be a pretty good player. He's played great for this Rocky team.
One of the players that the Rockies picked up when they traded Matt Holliday to the A's. It's been a very productive trade for him. Gonzalez and Houston Street came in that deal. Here's Corey Sullivan, the former Rocky, who's enjoyed his return to his home. 2 for 3 in this series, including a pinch triple. Josh Tolley getting set for his first big league at bat on deck. Bring Nolan Ryan's number. 1-1 to Sullivan.
You know, they better pay a little attention to Murphy. We know he's a little crazy enough to try to steal a base.
Murph's got 3 steals on the year.
He's tried to steal third before. I believe he has a base stolen, a third base stolen this year. You're right. It is a spectacular day here today.
Temperature right around 80 degrees. A little breeze blowing right to left. All the smoke that was in here a couple of nights ago with the wildfires from LA having drifted some 800-900 miles to the northeast. All that is gone. Line toward the middle, base hit for Sullivan. Here comes Murphy around third. He'll come in to score the first run of the game. Corey Sullivan continues his fine homecoming. An RBI single to give the Mets a 1-0 lead.
Well, Marquis again hurt outside. That's right to the glove, but Sullivan just stays right in with 2 strikes. You got to protect the plate. Nicely done.
So Sullivan drives in his 10th run of the year. And now Josh Toley's first big league at bat. Toley, a left-hand hitter, hit .328 in 103 games at Binghamton this year, just the 1 home run. Watching him during batting practice, he's got enough power to reach the seats, but clearly watching him choke up and approach it the way he does, he's not looking to hit home runs.
Looks like he's standing in front of the plate, not deep in the box. Let me see. His back foot's deep.
Said that starting last year he spread out his stance more.
Yeah, he's deep. Yeah, that's a lot of hitters do that today.
Said he used to be very straight up and down, but he said he decided that he would adopt a 2-strike approach from the beginning of at bats. You see, he's the youngest catcher for the Mets since Todd Hundley first came up. So there's been a lot put on his plate very quickly. 1-1 to Toley. Josh played behind the plate in high school, but he was a first baseman his first 3 years in the minors. And Toley lines one into right center, a base hit in his first big league at bat. That'll chase Sullivan to third. And they'll save that baseball for the mantelpiece of Josh Toley, who's hitting 1,000 in the big leagues.
Nicely done, Josh. That gets that out of the way right quick.
Greg Gibson, the home plate umpire, tosses it to Sandy Alomar, who will take possession of that trophy piece.
Ball up right here. Just kind of gets it up the middle. Nicely done. See right there, ball around bell tie. That's Marquis cannot live out there. He's up there, I should say. He's got to be downstairs.
So the Mets with a run already in here in the second inning. Now have first and third and 1 out. And Wilson Valdez, the number 8 hitter, will step in. Watch out for the squeeze. And Valdez takes outside for ball 1. Wilson, 43 at bats with the Mets this year, hitting .233. This is the 11th game he started. And taking an extra long look down at Razor Shines. The runner goes from first, and no throw as Toley steals second base. So Josh Toley, with his first major league hit, now picks up his first major league steal.
Will they give Josh a green light too? Nice jump, showing good speed.
Well, you've got Valdez and the pitcher up, and Jerry probably just trying to make something happen. Maybe hoping they would throw through and get a delayed double steal out of it.
I don't know what they were thinking there. I was completely caught off guard there, Gare. You wouldn't, you got a young catcher up there and he steals second base.
16 steals in 5 years in the minor leagues. 3-0 now to Valdez with a pitcher on deck, and Marquis misses wide, ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So Marquis giving up 3 hits in the inning, and now his first walk, and he's a guy who doesn't walk many. And now Mish will come up with the bases loaded and 1 out.
Well, they're going to have to play halfway. I mean, back for up the middle for 2. I mean, you could squeeze here. I mean, they're not playing aggressively in at the corners.
Mish is 0 for 5 in his career, 0 for 5 this year, 2 for 23 in his career. And he takes a strike. Now, you know what you tell the pitcher here. If you think you're going to hit into a double play, make sure you strike out.
But try to hit a fly ball. Get a run in.
Tough to do against Marquis, who is a pronounced ground ball pitcher. And he gets ahead on Mish, 0-2. In fact, this year there are only 3 pitchers in the major leagues who have higher ground ball percentages than Jason Marquis. all noted sinker ballers, Joel Pinheiro, Derek Lowe, and his teammate Aaron Cook. Mish dribbles one. Marquis with the glove flip home. The relay by Iannetta in time for the double play. 1, 2, 3 on the double play. The Mets settle for 1 run and lead 1-0. Nine innings of football debate with Brian Custer, former Jets quarterback Ray Lucas, and special guest Eli Manning. In the Wheelhouse, presented by Pepsi, weekdays at 5:30 only on SNY. Well, here's the double play.
Well, gets Marquis out of the jam. Nice play by Marquis with the glove. Shovel pass home. Iannetta with the strong throw. And this is like a repeat of the. He's not running that hard. My goodness, he's got to run.
That completely fooled Pat Mish, because when that ball's hit, it doesn't look like there's any chance to turn a double play. As far as Marquis had to come to get that ball, and Mish got nailed at first base. Here's Ryan Spilborghs, and he takes a strike. And he's probably kicking himself, I would think.
Yes.
He probably thought there was going to be no play at all at first. Spilborghs hitting at .254, had a huge 14th inning walk-off grand slam a week and a half ago here against the Giants.
It was the first walk-off grand slam in Rockies history. Well, they were behind here. Oh, no, it was tied, and that was it.
Well, the Giants had taken a 3-run lead in the top of that inning.
Right.
And Spilborghs ends it, and you see the celebration. He sprinted around the bases.
And then they went to San Francisco, and San Francisco gave it to him back.
Well, the Giants are going to be able to stick around because their pitching is just so extraordinary. I mean, they've already got, you know, the best 1-2 combination arguably in the league in Lincecum and Kane. And
gosh, if Brad Penny can pitch like he did last night. Up, he got the win in Philadelphia, 8 strong shutout innings.
They've got Lincecum going against the Phillies tonight. 3-2 to Spilborghs, leading off in the home second. Right back to Mish. And he gets Spilborghs for the first out. So 1 away. And we'll bring up the left fielder Seth Smith, who homered in the game last night. Second batter faced by Tim Redding. But Redding settled in after that and pitched a fine 6 2/3. Redding has given the Mets 3 good starts. What is this, American Gladiators?
no idea what's going on.
What's up with that?
There's a lot of strange people that walk around the streets of downtown Denver.
You think it's the thin air?
I have no idea.
He's attracted a crowd. Smith takes a strike. Smith hitting at 302, and I don't know what he's selling, but he's got customers. Fouled away. And Smith last night off Reading. Into the shrubbery.
Oh, goodness.
It's an epidemic.
That's Art Fern. Coors what? Coors Field. Okay.
Breaking ball fouled off the left side.
Peanut earrings.
Oh, is that what those are? What do you have, like, bugs?
We're reverting back to our ancient ancestors before we were able to walk. When we were on.
Does that mean eventually we'll be crawling out of the sea? We're back in? Here's the 0-2 to Smith. And he bounces one foul.
I was thinking more in terms of primates.
Yeah, but if you're going to keep going back, eventually you wind up in the primordial ooze.
I don't want to be a salamander. No, thank you. Don't even want to think about that.
At least you can blend in with your surroundings. Mish with the 0-2, and a breaking ball just misses. A ball and 2 strikes to Smith. Mish with a terrific strike to ball ratio early in this game. Chris Iannetta waiting on deck. He's gotten ahead of everybody he's faced so far. And it's in there for a, or is it? Well, he missed with it. Ooh. Where was that pitch?
I wasn't looking.
Look here.
I didn't look at the monitor. Don't tell Bill Webb.
Must have been low.
It was low. Good call.
Well,
oh boy, he got sawed off.
Jammed. Man,
that was a ball.
They called that a foul ball. Mish fielded it and threw to first.
He's lucky that he didn't hit his hands.
That's like the one with Frank Core last night where he got sawed off.
He's right on top of the plate.
Hit it off his hip.
That's called bringing your hands in. And I don't care for that approach. I know it's being taught today. Always felt you should let your hands fly out. If you get jammed, you get jammed. But whatever works.
So Smith is unknotted himself and ready to attack again. This will be the 8th pitch of the at bat from Mish. And he got jammed again. He fouls it off.
He's pounding him in.
Three strikes, only 9 balls so far from Mish. And Smith hits it out to right center. Frank Core over in the gap to run it down. 2 out.
He just stayed inside on Seth Smith. I agree. Stands on top of the plate, up and in. Look at that. Look at the elbow right there. That's called getting beat in.
What does that elbow signify?
It's an inside out, but he didn't stay level. The key to inside outing on a high pitch, if you're going to do that and cut across with your elbow like that, is just keep the bat level, then you hit the line drive to left field.
Here's Chris Iannetta making his first start of the series. First pitch swinging. David Wright. Murphy with the tag. Side retired. 1-2-3 inning for Pat Mish. He's set down 6 in a row. He's snow-capped. Rocky Mountain. 1-0 Mets. Baseball, which Mets catcher did you enjoy watching play more? A. Mike Piazza, B. Gary Carter.
That's a very good question.
Todd Hundley did not make the list. Text 57508 or visit sny.tv to enter. Choo-Choo Coleman also not pictured. Jerry Grody. There's your AT&T high-speed pitch. Pat Mish topping out at 88. Jason Marquis at 92. Mets with a 1-0 lead as Angel Pagan leads off the third.
John Stearns not in that
John
list.
Stearns. Good call.
I believe Carter played the least as a Met of that group.
Well, Gary got there in 85
Right.
and played till 89. 5 years.
How many years Piazza played with the Mets?
Piazza came over in 98 and played through 05. Right?
Very great years.
1 and 2 to Pagan.
For Mr. Piazza. And it looks like Mr. Schneider is kind of taking young Josh Tolley under his wing.
And give Brian a lot of credit for that, because, you know, Josh Tolley is here to take playing time from Brian Schneider, who has had a miserable year. And he has just taken that in a very positive vein. And frankly, it's something you don't always see. And kudos to Brian Schneider for that. 2-2 to Pagan. Struck him out. Marquis has his second strikeout of the day. 1 down in the third.
The old cambio. Change up. Sinks. Beautiful pitch. Not a strike, but started out as a strike.
So 1 out and nobody on. Marquis has averaged only 4.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this year. Hasn't had more than 6 in a game this season. Here's Hernandez, who struck out his first time up, and he takes a strike. Anderson 0 for 5 in this series. And he lines one the other way, and he has his first hit here in Colorado. A 1-out single, the Mets' 4th hit off Marquis.
Well, every base hit off Marquis has been belt high, up in the strike zone.
He's a guy who lives with his sinker.
And when you throw it belt high, it tends to flatten out. No longer sinks. It just runs away on the same plane, same elevation.
So here is David Wright, and if you're just joining us, David is wearing a normal batting helmet today, presumably because the larger one was not fitting well. He flares one into shallow right. That falls for a hit. Hernandez pulls in at second. He'll stop there. And David Wright with a first pitch, bloop single to right. And the Mets have 2 men on.
Well, fights off an up and in fastball. Wanted it away. Missed a little above the belt. Too much plate. David muscles it out into right center field.
That's 140 hits now for David, who's 4th in the National League in batting. So 2 aboard with 1 out. Mets with a chance to add to their lead as Daniel Murphy steps in. Murphy ripped a double to right and scored the only run of this game in the second. 29 doubles now for Murphy, just 2 behind Wright for the club lead. Speaking of David Wright in doubles, he's getting close to a milestone. David is tied for 2nd on the Mets all-time doubles list, tied with Howard Johnson. Just 11 behind Ed Kranepool for the Mets all-time doubles record.
What is, do you have it off the top of your head?
225. Grounded to short, might be 2. Tulowitzki gets the out at second. Vargas to first. After the second straight inning, the Mets inning ends with a double play. 6-4-3. 2 hits and 1 left. Middle of the third, 1-0 Mets.
usual, guys. I am eating. Well, you know, it's kind of where you usually show me. But, you know, it's actually a little harder than you would think for me to eat in these ballparks because I have what a lot of Americans have. It's called celiac disease. It's basically a food allergy, and we're allergic to a protein called gluten, which is in wheat and oats and barley and bread and a lot of things you can imagine. Well, here in Colorado, they're kind of, well, they're a front runner. Trendsetter, I should say, the first ever gluten-free concession stand at a major league ballpark, and they have it right down the left field line. And for people like me that have that food allergy, it's terrific because it's all gluten-free, obviously. Burgers, chicken, hot dogs with the rolls, which is the big problem, one thing we can never have. Cookies, which I can't tell you the last time I had a gluten-free cookie on the road. And even gluten-free beer. So it's really, and they've had a great response here in Denver. A lot of people have kind of come out of the woodwork. Back at Citi Field, they've kind of started that trend. They do have gluten-free beer out in the center field beer garden area, and there are some options available if you check in with the Mets customer service. But this, the first at MLB, a gluten-free concession stand. Needless to say, I have tore it up out here the last 3 days. Guys, back to you.
I'm glad to see that finally some ballpark is catering to your special needs.
It took 3 years for me to complain, and finally someone listened, Gary.
Good job.
You shouldn't talk with food in his mouth, though.
Well, neither should you, but it doesn't stop you. 1-2 to Ian Stewart leading off the home third, and Mish strikes him out. Second strikeout for Mish, who's now retired 7 in a row.
Well, the Rockies, I think if one vulnerability they have is against left-handers. They are a team now with 5 lefties in this lineup. I was a bit surprised that Garrett Atkins didn't start today. But their best players tend to be left-hand hitters. And that's something that a manager could exploit.
One of those 5 left-hand hitters today, Jason Marquis, who's a good hitter, but he grounds the first pitch down to Murphy, and that's 8 straight retired by Mish. 2 out and nobody on. Run the bases at Citi Field following Sunday afternoon's game against the Cubs with the Mr. Met Dash for all kids 12 and under, presented by Nestle Drumstick. For tickets, visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX. It will be great to get back home tomorrow night. This has been a very long road trip. Started in Florida, moved to Chicago, and then the 3 here in Denver.
That great Simon and Garfunkel songs. Gee, it's great to be back home.
Home is where I want to be.
Oh, my goodness.
It's not an easy thing to maintain or to keep the food out of.
He looks like an old gold miner.
Carlos Gonzalez pops one up into shallow center. Valdez going out to call, and a 1-2-3 inning for Mish. He's now set down 9 in a row through 3, 1-0 Mets. far. Pat Mish has outpitched Jason Marquis. Jeff Francoeur leads off in the 4th inning. Francoeur flied out his first time, and he swings and misses at the slider, 0-1.
Well, Marquis has been in trouble ever since the 2nd and 3rd inning. Got himself out of 2 big jams with double plays.
Well, normally Jason Marquis, a sunshine Superman. Speaking of Superman, look at this guy. This is a promotion they run here where a fan comes out of the stands, puts second base in its place, and has to get back in a certain period of time. Well, this guy didn't quite make it.
And the earth shook.
Saying Jason Marquis, a sunshine Superman. Lifetime winning percentage at night, 446. Lifetime winning percentage in the daytime, 676.
Gets
48 and 23.
Gets his rest.
I guess he's just a morning person. 2-2 to Francoeur.
Afternoon.
Well, but you have to be a morning person to be able to play at 1 o'clock, right?
Yes. You have to come to the ball yard. A lot of teams don't hit today on day games. I don't understand that.
In the dirt with the slider and a 3-2 count to Francoeur.
The teams did not hit today. They probably hit in the cage. Players today love to hit. There's the day.
Look at that. That's Stark. 7-1 this year in the daytime.
A lot of the players today that come up, they like to hit in the cage. But the cages are much better than they were in our day. In our day, the cages were very narrow. You had no sense of where you were hitting the ball unless you hit it right back up the middle. Today's cages are much wider.
Three and 2 to Francoeur leading off. And he drives one deep left field. Smith moving back, and he makes the grab.
Jammed him just enough. He wanted away and he missed. Oh boy. He was a little bit too quick. He got it towards the end.
Didn't miss by much. One out and nobody on. Here's your Aflac trivia question. What New York born player has the most home runs all time?
New York State?
New York State.
Okay, New York State, we're told. Was Mel Ott born in New York?
Well, Mel Ott had 511. Lou Gehrig had 493. Gehrig was born in New York, wasn't he?
I'm not sure. Was it Mel Ott?
I don't know. 2-0 to Sullivan, who had an RBI single for the only run of this game. Corey 3 for 4 in this series, a triple, an RBI, a stolen base. Trying to show the Rockies what they're missing. 2-1. Sullivan now 30 years old. Spent parts of 4 years with the Rockies as mostly a part-time player, but occasionally had stretches of starting. 2-2.
One of the great things about the new MLB network is all that footage they have of the old-time players. I mean, I never saw Lou Gehrig swing. I never saw Mel Ott swing, and you get to see the great guys from the 20s and 30s swing the bat.
Tapper back to Marquis, and Sullivan out. 2 out. Ott had that leg kick.
He had the leg kick and the hitch, and evidently he pulled the ball. He used Coogan's bluff. What was it? Polo ground.
So short down the line.
Right. He was a master at putting it around, hooking it around that foul pole.
Was it about 260 down the line? Where Dusty Rhodes hit his famous home runs in the '54 series. Well, Josh Tolley up for the second time, and you don't often get to see that. 1,000.
Well, this gets a lot of pressure off right here. Nicely done.
Catcher who chokes up on the bat, puts the ball in play. Jason Kendall. Good right-hand batter, of course. 3-0 now to Tolley. this is the approach that clearly has worked for him. Hit 300 in the minor leagues last year and 328 this year. Josh grew up in Breeze, Illinois, just 45 minutes from St. Louis. Big Mike Matheny fan growing up. This one's hit to left center. Gonzalez getting over and makes the sliding grab. And that will reduce Tolley's lifetime average to a mere 500. Wire available in HD, presented by IOTV. And if you're in the car, listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. Home tomorrow night at Citi Field, Mets and Cubs. Let's get another crack at Carlos Zambrano, whom they beat up in Chicago. 3 with the Cubs, 3 with the Marlins on the upcoming stand. Beautiful diving stop by David Wright, and he throws out Tulowitzki, one away. Great reaction play by Wright on the first pitch of the bottom of the 4th.
Bullet. Nice play by David.
So 1 pitch and Barmes is retired. Now Todd Helton, who flied out his first time up. And he takes ball 1 from Mish. Well, Pat Mish, in his last start in Chicago, his first start as a Met, through 7 innings, allowed only 1 run. The last time that a Met starting pitcher in his first start as a Met pitched as many as 7 innings and allowed as few as 1 run, you got to go back to 1998, Masato Yoshi. So it's 11 years ago, the last time a Met pitcher, Met starter, had that good a Met starting debut.
Saw the pitch count there, 32 strikes to what, 12 balls. That's outstanding.
Well, he has certainly backed up what he did 6 days ago. Out to left center, a base hit for Helton. Over goes Pagan to cut it off, and Helton, who does not run well at all these days, will pull in at first base.
Well, David Wright's play lead off the inning off the bat of Barmes. That was a leadoff double all the way. Would have been a tie ball game. A little inside out by Helton. That's why he can hit.
So Helton continues to rake. Now has a 7-game hitting streak going. And snaps a string of 10 in a row, retired by Mish. Only the second Rockies hit. Now Tulowitzki, who popped up to second base his first time up. And he pulls one just foul. So a couple of hard hit balls against Mish here in the 4th inning. That's a nice souvenir. Even better than the hat.
It's like a Bronco hat.
It says "and."
I know.
Nebraska, maybe?
No, it was orange.
Was it orange? Thought it might be red.
It was red then. It was Nebraska.
In the dirt, Tolle can't block it. And down to second base goes Helton with the tying run. So Tolle, who was charged with a pass ball in the 1st inning, this time unable to stop the wild pitch.
Change up that just bounced 10 feet in front of home plate. Tough chance for Josh.
So now with the tying run at second base, a 1-1 count on Tulowitzki, with Ryan Spilborghs on deck. One. Swing and a miss at the fastball. It's 1-2.
Oh boy, beat him.
Pat Mish has been very impressive. This is not his first go-around as a big league starting pitcher. If you look at Ryan Spilborghs on deck, this is his 13th major league start now. He made 11 over a couple of seasons for the Giants. But he is yet to be on the positive end of things. In fact, in Mish's 12 major league starts, his team has lost all 12 games. That ties a major league record. From the start of a career, a pitcher's team going 0-12 in his starts. John Cummings of the Seattle Mariners, 93 and 94. His first 12 starts, his team lost all 12. That is a streak that Mr. Mish would love to break. And he strikes out Tulowitzki. There's a big out for Mish, his 3rd strikeout of the afternoon.
Well, one thing about Mish, he's not afraid to throw his fastball. He threw it right by Tulowitzki.
Tulowitzki almost looked like he wasn't seeing the ball well those last 2 fastballs. I don't know whether Mish is hiding it well or what it is, but it's working for Pat Mish right now. Here's Spilborghs, who had a comebacker his first time up. Here's the batter's eye in center field. You've got that ivy growing on the background.
It's a nice background here.
Hitters generally love it.
All the parks are nice backgrounds now. All this stuff in the old days, when you had people in white shirts and filling up, it's all taken care of today. The old Astrodome, for me, before they put the backdrop up, had that tunnel going back, and you had no depth perception.
Well, Olympic Stadium in Montreal had the same thing, right? They had all like gray out there.
Oh, it's awful. I'm going to bring up that ballpark. I hated that park.
Of course, they have very nice springs out in the outfield too. Where's that water come from?
It's, I don't know.
Is it real water or fake water?
No.
It's the 1-1. The cutter taken high. It's 2-1 to Spilborghs.
Actually, there is. The Platte River flows through Denver. I don't know if it's the North or South Platte.
It's the North Platte.
No, it's the South
or it's
Platte.
the South Platte, one or the other. Snow-capped mountains.
Yep.
And Spilborghs takes high, and now Mish behind for a rare time today, 3-1. Mish has not walked the batter. He struck out 3, giving up no runs and 2 hits. Seth Smith hitting 6th in the order, waiting on deck. Let's see how careful he is with the right-hand hitter here, with the lefty to follow. On 3-1 to Spilborghs. In the air to center field, and Pagan has it lined up. Looking through the sunglasses to end the inning. 4 in the books now in Rocky Land, and it's 1-0 Mets. Let's go to SNY.TV to place your bid now, and you and a guest could have dinner with us.
Oh, gosh.
And catch the Mets-Braves game in a Sterling-level suite at Citi Field Tuesday, September 22nd.
They'll be rushing out the doors for that one.
Place your bids for dinner and a game. The auction today at SNY.TV. How about that?
Oops.
1-0 to Wilson Valdez. Will there be Haagen-Dazs at that dinner?
Better be.
Sounds good. Triple foul by Valdez, and it's 1-1.
So people here, if they catch 2 fly balls, get a free airline ticket. And what I thought people were athletic up here. You know, they ski, they ride bikes.
Something about the thin air. Nice bunt by Valdez. Marquis flings it, not in time. A bunt hit for Wilson Valdez. Dropped it down beautifully. And the Mets have the leadoff man on in the 5th.
Well, Valdez can fly. And that's a perfect bunt. Boy, oh boy. Nice play by Marquis, but Valdez runs too good.
Wilson can still get down the line at age 31. So one good bunt deserves another. Pat Mish will try and move him over.
Guys, quick question. If I bid on that dinner, do I get a discount?
Iannetta fields the bunt and throws out Mish. 2-3 on the sacrifice. 2-4 on the sacrifice.
I'd like to know how Kevin missed out on that. How come he doesn't have to do it?
Oh, I'm sure he's going to be there too.
Well, I'd like to spend time with you guys. So, you know, if I have to bid, I'll bid.
We have to do it, and you don't. That's not fair. I think you should be part of the dinner, Kevin.
Well, I think that probably fans would bid a lot more if Kevin were part of the dinner.
Of course.
You know, he brings a little something to the table that you and Ronnie and I can't offer.
That's right.
He's he's younger.
And Kevin, the camera loves Kevin.
Right. But with Pagan drills one up the middle, a base hit. Here comes Valdez around third. He'll score without a throw. It's an RBI single for Angel Pagan, and the Mets now lead it 2-0. So Pagan drives in his 28th run of the year. And the Mets using small ball, a couple of bunts, and a single up the middle. They add a run.
First ball, fastball hitting, and the ball up in the strike zone again. And fleet-footed Valdez is going to score easily.
So the Mets with their 7th hit. Now Pagan aboard with 1 out. Let's see if he tries to swipe one with Anderson Hernandez up. And a pitch out. Rockies were thinking that way. Marquis does not do a great job holding runners. Opposing base stealers are 14, make it 15 now out of 18 this year, with Tolley's stolen base earlier today. And it's down to Hernandez, 2-0.
I know it's not a hit and run count, but you know, you don't necessarily give Anderson Hernandez a 2-0 pitch to swing and try to drive. He's a singles hitter. So you could conceivably put the 2-0 hit sign on here with Anderson.
With David Wright to follow. And now it's 3-0 to Hernandez. You see the stolen base numbers on Pagan this year. You know that Hernandez is going to take a pitch here on 3-0.
Wow.
And it's ball 4. So the second walk given up by Marquis, they've both gone to light hitters, and they've both been on 4 pitches. He walked Valdez in the second. Now he walks Hernandez. Toyota Tex poll results. Which catcher did you enjoy watching play more? And it's a landslide.
I thought it would be. Mike Piazza just had a terrific career as a New York Met.
Bob Apodaca out to talk with Jason Marquis. Apodaca, the former Met pitcher and pitching coach. And the Rockies bullpen has some stirring around out there. Jim Tracy operating without his closer again today. Houston Street, who warmed up yesterday but felt biceps tendonitis and had to be shut down. And the Queens native Matt Daly gets up and starts stretching. So David Wright with an opportunity here with 2 aboard and 1 out. A run is already in here in the 5th, and the Mets lead 2-0. David grounded out to second base and then singled to right in the 3rd. Wearing the conventional batting helmet. And he first pitch swings and hits it the other way toward the right field corner. Around third and heading home is Pagan. Right behind him is Hernandez. He heads for the plate. No relay throw. It's a 2-run double for David Wright. And the Mets now lead it 4-0.
David set up the opposite field all the way. Fastball, outer half, right down the line. Pagan's going to score easily. Hernandez has to chug.
So David Wright drives in a pair with an opposite field double. That's 32 doubles this year and 215 now in David's career, and that puts him alone in second place on the Mets all-time doubles list. Now just 10 behind Ed Kranepool for the all-time lead. Murphy has doubled and grounded into a double play today, and he takes the changeup blown away. Murphy doubled to right and scored a run in the 2nd inning. Mets have tacked on 3 here in the 5th. Mets trying to win the final game of this series today as Murphy grounds one down to Helton, and Marquis gets over to cover for the 2nd out as Wright moves over to 3rd. If the Mets win today, it would follow something of a pattern.
Yes.
The last 5 series that the Mets have played on the road, going all the way back to their series in San Diego, then Arizona, Florida, Chicago, and here, they've gone into the final game of a series in danger of getting swept, and in those first 4 they've won that last game. Randy Flores, the left-hander, Joel Peralta, the right-hander, up in the Rockies bullpen. So the Mets are trying to avoid getting swept for yet a 5th straight road series. As Francoeur takes a strike, 0-1. Jerry Manuel with some instruction for Angel Pagan. And there has been a lot of instructing going on in that Mets dugout and clubhouse with Pagan, with Jerry and the coaching staff.
Well,
trying to refine a player that has a lot of ability.
That's a great example right there, and you see more of it, less of it in the minor league, on the minor league level, as opposed to when I played. Is that you had ex-major leaguers that were managing, and you were taught, at least for me, coming up in the minor leagues, from an A-ball level, I never played rookie ball, you had great instruction coming up. And then even the minor league coaches that I had that didn't play pro ball, Roy Matika was my A-ball coach, knew the game, was a middle infielder. Tom Burgess, the old California Angel, was my Double-A manager.
Francoeur grounds one slowly. Tough play. Stewart can't make it. A run comes home, and it's 5-0 New York. So Francoeur tops one. Stewart trying to make the bare hand play. Wright comes in for the 4th run of the inning.
Well, the third baseman's always going to come in and try to take that one. Fortunate base hit for the Mets.
So Francoeur drives in his 67th run of the year. A 4-run inning against Jason Marquis, and now Corey Sullivan will be the 8th man to bat. This all started with a bunt single by Wilson Valdez. Pat Mish moved him with a sacrifice. Pagan singled in a run. Hernandez walked. Wright doubled for 2, and now Francoeur with the infield hit to bring home another.
It's always kind of interesting. It's just so hard to sweep a team. And I'd never can figure it out. You would figure that this would be advantage Rockies. Momentum, a night game last night, a day game today. But look what happens. The Mets come out swinging.
Barnes plays the one hopper, throws out Sullivan. A 4-run inning for the Mets, and they lead 5-0. Inside camp get a complete breakdown of tonight's Jets-Eagles game. Plus, Leon Washington talks with Steve Overmeyer about his contract troubles and how Mark Sanchez will impact his game on an all-new Jets Nation Inside Camp Sunday at 8, only on SNY. Seth Smith leads off the home 5th inning. Pat Mish now with a 5-0 lead. Pat Mish is making his 55th Major League appearance today. 42 relief appearances. This is his 13th start, and he's looking for his first Major League win, and he's got a 5-0 lead. He falls behind Smith now, 3-0.
It's the first time he's really fallen behind. He's been all getting ahead. First pitch strikes.
Chris Iannetta and Ian Stewart to follow in the home 5th. And there's ball 4. First walk of the afternoon issued by Mish. You wonder.
Yes.
You get the lead.
Yep.
You can smell it. You need to get the 5 innings in. And you walk the leadoff hitter on 4 pitches, almost as though he's psyching himself out.
Well, I wish we could have Ronnie here to get his opinion, because it's almost like, you're pitching a 1-0 ball game, and every out, every at batter is so crucial. Then all of a sudden, your team gives you a 5-run lead, and do you lose a little bit of the edge? I don't know. I never pitched on a major league level. Only in Little League and high school.
You've been in situations, and you've certainly seen hitters in situations where they, I don't know if it's letting themselves down or psyching themselves out, just wanting something too badly. Iannetta takes low, and it's 1-1.
Well, what he needs right now is a nice double play.
Ian Stewart, left-hand hitting third baseman, hitting 8th in the order, waiting on deck. Rockies have had only 2 singles. Gonzalez leading off the first. Helton with 1 out in the 4th. That's been it. 2-1 now to Iannetta, who has struggled at the plate this year and lost some playing time lately. Yourvit Torrealba has been red hot. Torrealba started the first 2 games of this series. Iannetta, though, has caught the bulk of the games for the Rockies this year. 2-1 for Mish. Popped it up. Playable for Murphy right near the bag. And he has it in foul ground, 1 away. So there's an out to settle down Mish. 1 out and 1 on, and now Ian Stewart, who struck out his first time up.
Now remember, the last at bat was a lengthy, multiple pitch at bat, and he pounded Stewart in predominantly the last at bat. See what he does this time. See if Stewart's going to look in. See if he's worried in. They're going to go away. First pitch. Nice curveball.
Smith at first with 1 out. Not a big base stealing threat. 1-1 to Stewart. Pitcher spot is due up next, but Garrett Atkins has come out on deck to bat for Jason Marquis. Atkins, who shares time at third base now with Stewart, and neither one of them has had a spectacular year. Stewart has 19 home runs, but he's hitting just .228. Pops it up. Valdez going out. Sullivan coming in. Sullivan calling. 2 out. Now, Atkins has gone back in the dugout, and instead it's going to be Eric Young Jr. to pinch hit for the Rockies.
I think the thinking behind that is that there was 2 men on. Atkins has got power. Try to get one swing back in the ball game, but it's still the middle of the ball game. The 5th. Hold him in reserve.
Joel Peralta up in the bullpen for Colorado. So Jason Marquis is done after 5 innings. He gave up 5 runs and 9 hits. He was seeking his 15th win, which could have matched his career high. Now unlikely to have that opportunity. You see the numbers on Mish, combining his start in Chicago with his start here today, and he has been a revelation. So here is Young, and he takes outside ball 1. Eric Young, 5 hits and 20 at bats since being called up by the Rockies. His dad played for Colorado. Grounds one right back to Mish. And so Pat Mish gets his 5 innings in with a 5-0 lead. On all things New York sports, hear it all on Geico Sports Night every night at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. right here on SNY. Aflac! Here's the answer to your Aflac trivia question. Most home runs all time for a player born in New York State? Oh, yeah. He grew up in Miami, but he was born in New York.
Yes, he was.
a trick question. A-Rod last night picked up his 2,500th hit on its way to 3,000. Joel Peralta on in relief, facing Josh Tolle, who's 1 for 2 in his big league debut.
Well, Joel Peralta has pitched since 2005 in the big leagues, the last 5 seasons. Was activated Tuesday night.
He was with the Rockies earlier this year, and for a couple of months he was one of the primary setup men for Colorado, but didn't fare well. Pitched much better in the minors. Peralta, now 33 years old, facing the 22-year-old Josh Tolle, who has singled and lined out to center in his first 2 big league at bats, and he pulls this one to right. Spilborghs is there to grab it. 1 out. So 1 out and nobody on. Let's check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. All right, Chris. Wilson Valdez lifts one to center field, and Carlos Gonzalez is there. And quickly, there are 2 men down in the 6th.
By the way, that dinner that's being auctioned off.
Yeah.
I just got texted from Andrew Figueroa, our all-star PR man at SNY. Kevin is a part of that dinner.
Oh, good. Well, that'll jack up the price.
That certainly.
But now with Kevin's revelation today, you got to make sure to keep it gluten-free.
Oh, that's true.
Here's Pat Mish, who is grounded into a double play and sacrificed, and he takes a strike.
Is Ronnie in studio today?
Ronnie is in studio today, I believe, and then he's back with me tomorrow when you go on vacation. Maybe we could bring the gluten-free stand home with us. 0-2 to Mish. Chris updated that Cardinals score. The Cubs are playing this afternoon. They've got a makeup game with the White Sox left over from interleague play, and they're down 4-0 in the 9th. Carlos Torres, 3rd major league start, 7 scoreless innings for the White Sox today at Wrigley Field. Cubs will be at Citi Field tomorrow. Nothing behind Pat Mish. Tomorrow's probables at Citi Field. Mets get a second shot at Carlos Zambrano, whom they hit around Wrigley Field last week. Bobby Parnell tries to get his season righted in his 6th big league start. 6:30 the coverage tomorrow night on SNY. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin.
Guys, Rockies manager Jim Tracy has seen winning and he's seen losing as manager of the Dodgers, manager of the Pirates, and now, of course, manager here in Colorado. And I asked him, other than talent, of course, and good ball players, what makes the difference between a winning and a losing team? And he says, well, I tell my guys they have to check theirself at the door. You've got to be selfless. And he said, this Rockies team reeks of that. And I said, well, now what have you learned from being a manager? Have you, taken it to another level, how you preach that? He said, no, I don't think I've changed too much. I give the guys a message, but for me, there's a reason why the manager's office is separate from the clubhouse. I give the message, and I let them go with it. And this group has done a very good job of that. Guys, back to you.
Well, I guess the question then is, how do you put together a team where that becomes second nature and where the manager's message automatically gets through?
Well, that's the most difficult part. Your scouts look at talent, and it's hard to read what's in the mentality. You can see the physical skills, but there are selfish players out there, a lot of them, and they're those that are selfless.
3-1 to Carlos Gonzalez, leading off the home sixth, and Mish for the second straight inning has walked the leadoff hitter. He was not hurt by it in the fifth because he was facing the lower third of the order. Now he's got the 2, 3, and 4 hitters coming up. Barmes, Helton, and Tulowitzki with a 5-0 lead. Barmes has struck out and was robbed of a hit on a terrific diving stop by David Wright his last time up. And it's very easy for fans and folks to sit on the sidelines and talk about players who would fit with a certain team based on their numbers. And there's so much more of an emphasis now on statistical analysis and using that as a basis for building your team. And there certainly is a place for that. But the more you watch the game, hit to right field, and Frank Cora is right there waiting for it. And that's the first out of the inning.
Yes.
Barmes retired. The more you watch the game, the more you realize that statistics are great, but they don't win games.
Well, you can't have a team that's bottom in the pitching and bottom in hitting and win. There is some individualism in the game, but it's the intangible. It's that's hard to put your finger on. And I agree with Jim Tracy. That's why he got the manager's room is separated, and I feel it's the same way with the general manager. That's why the general manager's office is upstairs. And general managers today get too cushy with the players, and there should be a separation there too.
Alton hits one over to left center, and Sullivan gets over. 2 out. Well, Mish keeps on rolling after the leadoff walk. Gets 2 fly ball outs, and now will face Tulowitzki. Troy Tulowitzki has popped up and struck out today, 0 for 2.
All my general managers, I said before, Garrett, Bing Devine with the Cardinals. John Claiborne took over after Bing Devine. Then Whitey Herzog. Well, that was a little bit different because Whitey was general manager. And Frank Cashin with the Mets. There was hardly any contact with the general manager.
Want to know the count to Tulowitzki.
In World War II, did the grunt out there in the foxhole ever have a conversation with Dwight Eisenhower? I don't think so.
Well, it brings up a very interesting question, which is, does a major league player today consider himself a grunt in the foxhole? Or, has that balance changed?
It has changed. My feeling is it has changed.
So the question is, how do you then create selfless players?
Well, it can happen. Look at this team out here in the white uniform. They're a good, hard-playing bunch that does the little things. Look at the Phillies. There's a great example. So we see more of the Phillies because they're in our division. That's a selfless team.
So is it a matter of nurturing it from within, or is it bringing the right people in to the mix?
Both. We've got to develop it in the minor leagues.
Tulowitzki fists one out to left center. Sullivan gets over, makes the running catch. And Pat Mish has 6 shutout innings under his belt. The Mets with a 5-0 lead. singled in a run in the 5th inning. He's 1 for 3. And he takes high from Joel Peralta, who starts his 2nd inning of relief. The Mets got a run in the 2nd on a Corey Sullivan RBI single. They added 4 in the 5th against Jason Marquis. Pagan drove in 1. Wright brought home 2, and Francoeur's infield hit brought home the last. And Pagan rifles this one into right center for a base hit. He'll head for 2nd as Gonzalez fields it, and Pagan cruises in with his 13th double of the year. So Pagan continues to rake.
Ball down and away, stays right with it. He's got a nice swing. There's no question about that.
5 times in the last 7 games now, Pagan has had at least 2 hits. So the Mets have their 10th hit of the day, and now Anderson Hernandez, who has a single and a walk, and he scored a run today. Rockies look for the bunt.
I wouldn't
But
think
he's not bunting. Pops up the first pitch. And that one will sail out of play.
with a 5-run lead. I don't think so. I think you want to play for a big inning. You just have enough faith in Anderson to try to pull the ball.
So we'll see whether the Rockies change their defensive look. And Hernandez rips one into right field, a base hit. Pagan will have to stop at third as Spielborgs plays it on a hop. And the Mets have runners at the corners and nobody out.
Well, setting up a big game for David here. Nice hitting by Anderson. Right down the pipe. Boy, oh boy. Beautiful swing on that ball.
So Hernandez with his second hit of the day. Used to say that all the time.
Every Met has a hit in this lineup again. Except the pitcher.
He has a sacrifice. That's his job.
We were just talking about sacrifice.
Well, self-sacrifice.
Selfless.
Good of the team.
Yes.
Here's David Wright, 2 for 3, a bloop single, and then an opposite field double that drove in 2. The infield comes in for the Rockies. Well, the conventional batting helmet serving David just fine today.
I think you're going to see that helmet more often.
You think?
Yes.
See, I think once they get the size right, the fit right on that newer, safer helmet, I think David will go back to it.
Okay.
We'll see. Randy Flores, the veteran lefty, up in the Colorado bullpen with Daniel Murphy on deck. And David hits this one to center field. Got Gonzalez turned around, and he makes the catch. What a recovery by Carlos Gonzalez. Pagan comes in to score, but Gonzalez robs right of an extra base hit and saves a run.
This is like Willie Mays in the Polo Grounds just about. What a play. He got turned around. That is a beautiful catch. And Hernandez should have been a little deeper. Should have been on second base. He can easily get back. But that's okay. That's picky.
Now David Wright with his third RBI of the afternoon puts the Mets up 6-0. Pitching change for the Rockies as the lefty will come on to face Murphy. This call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. Mets up 6-0.
of Bobby Valentine, how he feels about September call-ups. He's dead set against it. Here's a game that's 6-0 in the 7th, and it allows Jim Tracy to rest his bullpen, not bring them in. Bobby was very much against that.
Well, Bobby felt as though if you're going to have a pennant race, you should have 25-man rosters the entire season. That it made a mockery of things, that you could throw in extra pinch runners and extra pinch hitters and extra relief pitchers in games that are crucial for teams in pennant races. There's a strike to Murphy, 1-2. And especially because, you know, some teams will call up one player and some teams will call up 12 players, and so you're playing with an uneven playing field, especially if you get into an extra inning game.
I never thought of it before, but I'm inclined to agree with Bobby.
I do too. Murphy foul tips it into the mid of Iannetta, and so Flores comes on to get the strikeout for the second out of the inning.
Well, Murph looked like he didn't even pick this ball up. That's not a good swing. Kept his eye on the ball.
And Jim Tracy's going to make another pitching change. He has the right-hander Juan Rincon up in the bullpen, and so Rincon will come on to face Frank Core. 6-0 Mets in the 7th. Series against the Chicago Cubs. Log on to Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX for your tickets now. The veteran right-hander Juan Rincon comes out of the bullpen for the Rockies. Mets saw Rincon earlier this year, and he was dreadful. Remember, he came into a tie game, the opening game of the series at Citi Field, walked the first two hitters, walked another guy. He left, and then Fernando Tatis hit a grand slam off Franklin Morales, and the Mets have themselves a win.
On those two walks, he wasn't even close.
Comes in here to face Frank Core, and he throws a first pitch fastball for a strike.
You saw by those numbers, I guess like we said, Gary, he just had a bad day because he's having a good season for the Rockies.
Hernandez at first with 2 down. Mets have a run home here in the 7th. And Frank Core takes off the plate. Well, Rincon was very good for a long time in Minnesota, serving as a setup man for Joe Nathan. He was with the Twins for 7 seasons before they dealt him to Cleveland, and he landed with Colorado this year. 2-1 to Frank Core. Speaking of Joe Nathan, he just had a dreadful day yesterday.
Boy,
that was a big loss for the Twins. They were up 2-0 with 2 out and 2 strikes in the 9th. Nathan gave up back-to-back home runs to Gordon Beckham and Paul Konerko to tie it, then walked a couple of guys. They took him out, and the Twins lost that game. And the White Sox then went to Wrigley Field today for their makeup game with the Cubs and won 5-0. So Ozzie Guillen says he's not giving up.
Well, even though they traded the ship away.
Yeah. They started the day 7 games behind Detroit. The Tigers also won today. Frank Kurtek's blowing away 3-2.
It was an equally tough loss for the Braves, who were pushed back last night to 4 out again in a wild card.
Wes Helms with the walk-off home run for the Marlins in that game last night.
And that was a must-win for the Marlins.
3-2, low and away, and Frank Curzon with a walk. So the Mets have 2 men on, and Corey Sullivan coming up. So just as he did in New York, Rincon walks the first man to face him. Sullivan 1 for 3 today, singled home the first run of the day back in the 2nd inning. Mets got a run in the 2nd, 4 in the 5th, all against Jason Marquis, and now 1 here in the 7th against the Rockies bullpen.
Straight away defensively against Sullivan.
Sullivan getting another start in left field today. Gary Sheffield is not only not available to start, at this point he's not really even available to pinch hit. And Jerry Manuel made it sound as though that may not change for the rest of the season. Gary's been battling back problems. But you also have to wonder, with the season standing where it is right now, and with the distinct possibility the Mets might have Carlos Beltran back as early as next week, whether Sheffield would be playing anyway. I mean, if Beltran comes back and plays most of the time in center field the last 3 weeks of the season, you're going to want to look at Pagan and Sullivan and Evans more so than you're going to want to look at Sheffield, I would think.
Tatis is going to be an odd man out too.
Nick Evans got 1 start in this series and swung the bat well. One and 2 to Sullivan. Pulled down to first base. Helton handles it off to the side. And that'll do it for the Mets in the 7th, but they tack on a run. 7th inning stretch time. Pat Mish going back to the mound with a 6-0 lead. With KFC pregame live tomorrow at 6:30, only on SNY. Bobby Parnell has been hit very hard over his last several starts. Very much the opposite for Pat Mish. who has settled in nicely in his first 2 Mets starts, and today has a 6-0 lead as he starts off the bottom of the 7th against Ryan Spilborghs. Spilborghs with a comebacker and a fly ball, 0 for 2. Mish about to throw just his 83rd pitch, and it's grounded to shortstop for Wilson Valdez to handle. Strong throw, 1 out. So Mish looking for his first major league win, and certainly in position to go deep into this game.
Very good balls and strikes right there. 50-33. Gotta love that.
Mish has walked 2. He struck out 3, allowed just 2 singles today. Carlos Gonzalez led off the first inning with a base hit. Todd Helton singled in the 4th, and that's been it. Seth Smith takes a strike. Smith has flied to right and drawn a walk. 0 for 1. And the breaking ball away. A ball and a strike. Pat Mish, 28 years old. Mets picked him up on waivers from the Giants in early June. He only made 4 appearances for the Giants this year, but interestingly, the best one he made was against the Mets. It was that Saturday afternoon game in San Francisco when the Mets beat up on the Giants, and Mish came on in long relief. There's Matt Hergis, the veteran right-hander, up in the Rockies bullpen. And Mish came on and he settled things down for a couple of innings, and I think the Mets were impressed with what they saw. Valdez puts away the pop-up by Smith for the 2nd out. But I don't think anybody could have foreseen that Pat Mish would wind up starting games for the Mets this season. But with the injuries to Santana and Perez and John Maine, it's created an opportunity, and Mish so far has taken full advantage of that opportunity. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Chris Iannetta, who's grounded out and fouled out 0 for 2. Hit in the air to deep left field. Forget that. That's long gone. And the Rockies have their first run of the game. Chris Iannetta with his 15th home run of the season breaks up the shutout. It's now 6-1 New York. Just the 3rd Colorado hit of the game, and they get on the board.
Well, one of the few bad pitches by Mish, a hanging breaking ball, and he just turns on it. Just kind of up in the strike zone, just kind of a flat breaker. One of the few mistakes he's made today.
Only the 2nd home run that Mish has given up this season. Now here's Ian Stewart, and he pops one foul back this way.
There it goes. He's a pretty calm
about that.
He's a calm, cool customer. He knows he made a mistake.
Well, give up a solo home run with a 6-0 lead. Doesn't bother you nearly as much as it might in other circumstances. 0-2 now to Stewart.
I tell you what, I just like the way he's pitched left-handers today. He's really pounded them in, but up and in the strike zone. Just really just tied them up all night, all day, excuse me.
And he's thrown strikes, gotten ahead of most of the hitters. And he can almost taste that first major league win now. To center field and deep. Back goes Pagan. Warning track at the wall. It's out of here. Home run for Ian Stewart as the Rockies go back to back, and now it's 6-2. The 20th home run of the season for Ian Stewart.
Well, enough. I don't know if that was a breaking ball or a fastball away, but he stayed in. We'll look at Mish's reaction here on this one.
This time he wasn't so sure. But not pleased. So after giving up just one home run in his first 35 innings of work this year, Mish gives up back-to-back home runs here with 2 out of the 7th. Garrett Atkins is going to come up to pinch hit, and the Mets get the bullpen going as Pedro Feliciano begins to loosen up. You got the left-hand hitter Carlos Gonzalez on deck, so Feliciano would be ready for him if Atkins keeps this inning going. Atkins started the first game of this series at third base, went 2 for 3 and drove in a run. 2 out and nobody on, and Atkins takes wide for ball 1. Garrett Atkins having himself an absolutely dreadful year when you match it up against his last 3 or 4 seasons. Drove in 99 runs or more 3 consecutive years with the Rockies. He's driven in 40 this year. Mish trying to finish off this 7th inning. It's been elusive, but he gets the ground ball. Wright lets it go for Valdez. Atkins retired, and Mish has worked his way through 7 innings. Found a bump in the road in the 7th, but has a 6-2 lead going to the 8th. Chance for his first major league victory.
Nice job, Pat. He pitched wonderfully, pitched inside. Just goes to show you don't have to be a flamethrower. Nice job.
Now the 39-year-old right-hander Matt Hergis will take over the pitching for the Rockies.
The veteran Matt Hergis, and was in the minor leagues. What did he sign a contract in July?
Yeah, mid-July. He was out for the taking. Was signed by Cleveland, went to spring training camp with them, but didn't stick. Josh Tolley up for the 4th time in his major league debut. 1 for 3, had a base hit his first time up, and he takes a strike from Hergis. Josh Tolley making his debut today. Omir Santos is a rookie and has made 66 starts behind the plate this year. The last time the Mets had 2 rookie catchers start for them in the same season, you got to go back to 1986. He had 3 rookies start games that year. No, 86. He had Ed Hearn, John Gibbons, and Barry Lyons were all rookies that year, and they all started games behind the plate.
A pretty good year too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Helton handles the ground ball. Tolley retired. 1 out in the top of the 8th. Time to check in with Chris Carlin. He's standing by for a New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. All right, Chris, and of course the Cubs are coming to Citi Field with their playoff hopes fading by the day. That loss puts them 6.5 behind the Rockies for the moment in the wild card race. Wilson Valdez up for the 4th time. Pat Mish doing a little debriefing with his fellow starters, Nelson Figueroa and Tim Redding, part of what Jerry Manuel has called the Fab Five,
the refurbished rotation.
Joe Beimel, the veteran lefty, up in the Rockies bullpen. Boy, they have a lot of experience in that bullpen.
They picked up Beimel to give them that left-hander in the bullpen for the push or before the trade deadline, which is really, there's ways to get around that trade deadline.
Sometimes 1-2 to Valdez.
A lot of last-minute moves made before the September 1st call-ups in the National League West. What's Jerry out here for? What's going down? Calling the crew chief, second base umpire Tim McClellan.
I'm not sure what's going on. They're pointing to something down the right field line. And I have no idea. Whatever it is, it's straightened out now as Valdez continues his at bat. And he hits it deep to left field. Back goes Smith to the track near the wall. He makes the catch. Good play by Seth Smith to take an extra base hit away from Valdez for the 2nd out. Well, the Rockies have played some good defense in this series.
Good defense in the outfield. This is the 3rd or 4th tremendous catch. Oh, I shouldn't say tremendous catch, but that's a nice catch, and that is just fearless against the wall. They're not being afraid of the wall. Nice play. Hergis not happy with himself.
So Seth Smith, not known for his defense, makes a nice defensive play there. Now Jeremy Reed will pinch hit for Pat Mish, who is done after 7 terrific innings. Curveball stays high. 2 starts for Mish as a Met, and both have been outstanding. 7 innings, 1 run in Chicago, 7 innings, 2 runs in Colorado. Not the 2 easiest places to pitch. And Reed takes the curveball low, 2-0. Jeremy pinch hit in the game last night, had a base hit in the 8th inning. Angel Pagan has had another good day at the plate, waiting on deck. 6-2 New York, 8th inning. And Reed fooled. 2-1.
Well, he just chased a high fastball.
On 2-1, Reed strokes one toward the middle, base hit. So for the 2nd straight day, Jeremy Reed comes up with a pinch hit. That's 13 pinch hits this season for Jeremy. And the Mets have a 2-out base runner.
Tough year for Jeremy, not getting a lot of playing time, and I just done a good job off the bench. Toughest job in the game. It's hard to stay fresh, stay in a rhythm.
Angel Pagan has 2 hits today. Single to center to drive in a run in the 5th. Doubled to right center in the 7th, and he scored 2 runs. Has his average back to 300 for the year. And he lines a base hit to left, his 3rd hit of the day. Reed pulls in at 2nd. Another good afternoon for Angel Pagan. And the Mets have 2 on and 2 out, and a chance to tack on some more. Bob Apodaca will head to the mound to talk to Hergis before he takes on Anderson Hernandez. Matt Hergis has made the rounds in the National League West. He came to the big leagues late. I think he was 28, 29 years old when he first came up with the Dodgers in '99. And he's pitched for the Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants, and the Rockies, and Arizona. In fact, he's pitched for all 5 teams in the NL West. Also pitched along the way for Florida and Montreal. So Hurge is a baseball lifer. He's never made it to the American League.
Well, he had a chance in spring, you said. He was with
Oh,
Cleveland.
that's right. He was with Cleveland earlier this year. My mistake. He was in 21 games for the Indians before they released him. So there you go. Obviously, he belongs in the NL West. Here is Sheffield, a mere spectator. Anderson Hernandez 2 for 3 and a walk today. He scored a run. Mets now have 13 hits. Pagan has 3. Hernandez has 2. Wright has 2. It's funny how this has worked, isn't it? Every one of these series, the Mets have a big offensive day when they're in danger of getting swept. And the curveball bounced foul. Mets had 12 hits in Chicago that last game to salvage the finale of that series. They had a huge offensive day in Florida after losing the first 2 in that series. David Wright having a big afternoon today. 3 RBIs with the conventional helmet. Hurge is the 5th Colorado pitcher of the afternoon. Jason Marquis is on the hook today. No daytime prowess for Marquis today.
He got off to a good start in that first inning, but it all went downhill from that point on.
See, that was the problem. Turned out he was a morning person, not an afternoon person. 2-1 to Hernandez. Anderson playing second base today with Luis Castillo getting the day off. And Hernandez fouls it away, 2-2. Anderson Hernandez, a guy who's fighting for a spot on this team for next year. Trying to show that he can play enough shortstop to be the backup infielder.
And he's certainly getting enough opportunities. He's been playing every day.
We know he can play second base. Question is whether he can play shortstop well enough to be that guy. Of course, if the Mets have a healthy Jose Reyes, they don't need someone to be that guy very often. Reyes for 4 straight years played virtually every day before this season. Bounce down to first, and Helton is there to grab it. Side retired. On to the bottom of the 8th. Mets will go to the bullpen, hoping to protect Pat Mish's first big league win. Queens wants to know, Keith, what do you think about the upcoming college football season that gets going tonight?
Well, Frank, you gotta love Florida with Tebow, and I think SC is going to have a kind of a. They got a rookie, they got a freshman quarterback this year. They may have some problems offensively. I think Texas is probably the other team. I think it might wind up Florida and Texas. Remember, Florida's not going to play Mississippi or Alabama during the regular season.
What do you think of Alabama's chances?
I like Alabama. I like the coach. I think the coach is terrific. Everywhere he's gone, he's been fabulous. I think of his name. Started out in Michigan State, turned that program around.
Nick Saban.
Sabo, yeah, yes. Saban. I think he's one of the best coaches going.
Carlos Gonzalez 1 for 2 and a walk today, facing Pedro Feliciano, who's on for the second straight day.
I like Columbia's chances this year, Gare.
Of doing what? Winning a game? we win once every year. Sometimes we beat Fordham. Ripped deep but foul. Well, Gonzalez, who had a second deck home run here 2 nights ago against Mike Pelfrey, turning on that one and yanking it foul. Gonzalez had a bunt single against Feliciano last night, and then Pedro came back and struck out Seth Smith. That was his outing. Gonzalez tries to hold up, and he did so. Andy Fletcher with the call. 2-2. Been a busy year for Pedro Feliciano, although his rate of work has slowed down lately. This is his 72nd appearance. Right back to Pedro. He's always been a good fielder. One away. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Burger King. By Geico. By Lexus. And by Citi. Citi never sleeps. 1 out in the home 8th inning. Now Clint Barmas, who's 0 for 3 on the day, robbed of a hit by David Wright back in the 4th. And Barmas takes a strike from Feliciano. Working behind Pat Mish, who threw 7 innings, allowed 2 runs and 4 hits, walked 2, struck out 3. Both the runs coming on home runs in the 7th inning, back to back by Iannetta and Stewart to break up Mish's shutout. And I don't think Pat knows what to do with himself right now. Watching as Feliciano tries to protect his first big league win. Good off speed pitch by Pedro, and it's 1-2. Remember, Mish left with the lead in Chicago in his last start, only to see Brian Stokes have a very rough inning and give the lead back. Hoping the bullpen will do better by him today. More margin for error this time. He left ahead 2-1 in that game in Chicago, here with a 4-run lead. Todd Helton on deck. Two to Barmas. A little low with the fastball. 3-2. Feliciano last year was in 86 games. That was a Mets club record. Looked for a long time as though he would shatter that mark. Not so certain now. 28 games to play after today. He'd have to pitch in half of them to reach that number. Barmas hits a rocket to deep left. Sullivan watches it, and it's off the wall. In play, and Barmas pulls into second base. Ball came very close to going out.
They're going to have a run. I thought it was out.
Let's see. Did it hit the railing or go in the stands?
It's a home run.
Yep.
That's a home run.
Right. It carried off the
they're going to
concrete there beyond the yellow line, and that should be a home run.
They're going to overrule this.
Or at least they'll check out the replay. And now Now they signal home run, so they won't even bother going to the replay. And Barmes gets credit for his 22nd home run of the year to cut the Met lead to 6-3.
3 solo home runs out of the Rockies, much like Redding's performance with 3 solo shots. And Jerry Manuel's going to come out.
Well, Jerry wants to know why they did not at least look at a replay.
Because someone got a clear view. I bet you it was
The
McClellan.
ball went over the padding and then bounced off the concrete there and came back.
To me, I bet you McClellan overruled.
And I'm sure what Tim is saying is that he had a clear view of it, but you can understand Jerry wanted them to at least look at a replay to be sure before they overturn it.
Yeah, he's just going to say a little bit. He knows he's got a losing argument there.
And I'm sure if he asked Corey Sullivan, Corey would tell him, Skip, don't bother.
Well, if it was a tie ball game or a 1-run game, I think he'd be a little more adamant.
So now it's 6-3 Mets. What was 6-0. And you got the big hitters coming up, Helton and Tulowitzki. Helton is 1 for 3, singled back in the 4th. And he takes inside from Feliciano. It's a Rocky team that's now hit 159 home runs. Only the Phillies have hit more in the National League. For Pedro Feliciano, that's the 7th home run he's allowed this year in 50 innings of work. And Helton fouls it back, 1-2. Tulowitzki waiting on deck. Feliciano's had the upper hand against Helton in their past meetings. Helton just 1 for 6 against him. And he taps one back to Feliciano. And that's the 2nd out of the inning. So 2 comebackers bracketing the home run by Barmes. As Feliciano gets the 2 left-hand hitters, but gives up the home run to the right-hand hitter. And now he's got another right-hand hitter to face in Tulowitzki. Tulowitzki 0 for 3 today. Popped up, struck out, and flied out.
Let's say Met pitching has contained Tulowitzki in this 3-game series.
He's gone 3 for 11 in the 3 games. Elmer descends, staying busy in the Mets bullpen. Frankie Rodriguez came on in an untraditional situation yesterday with the Mets down by 3 and the bases loaded in the 8th and got a couple of outs. Good off-speed pitch by Feliciano, and it's 0-2. But you can be certain Frankie will be in there in the 9th inning today. There haven't been many save chances for K-Rod since the All-Star break. He's had just 5 saves since the break. Here's the 0-2, low and away with the changeup. And Tulowitzki rolls one out for Valdez. And the side retired. So Feliciano gives up the home run to Barmes. Mets still lead 6-3 going to the 9th. Ninth inning at Coors Field. Mets with a 6-3 lead. Matt Herges' second inning of relief. David Wright's had a big day today. 2 hits, 3 RBIs. And he takes the curveball high for ball 1. Here's that home run again.
That's off the bat of Barnes. And it's clearly a home run. That guy didn't even react. That's a ball coming at you. Is that a guy?
Has to go over that yellow padded railing. And it clearly did, and then bounced back to Corey Sullivan. They first called it in play, but then correctly overruled it and called it a home run. David Wright ditching the newfangled helmet today. Maybe he sent it to the Hall of Fame. They asked for it, you know.
Well, I'm sure Charlie would oblige.
And we'll see what headgear David dons tomorrow when the Mets return home to play the Cubs. It's a mystery.
I will await with bated breath.
Now, you won't even be watching tomorrow, will you?
I'll TiVo.
Daniel Murphy on deck, and then Jeff Francoeur. You can TiVo, that's fine, but you're not allowed to fast forward through the commercials.
Why?
Because we need to patronize our sponsors.
You're not going.
You need to see their messages.
Well, how do you know?
How do I know? I don't.
Big brother?
I'm taking you at your word.
1989?
1989?
Whatever.
4.
Right. Mr. Orwell.
Yes. Big brother is watching.
Yep, that's where we're heading.
Matt Herges gave up a couple of hits in the 8th inning and staying on to pitch the 9th. And taking an awful lot of time before throwing this 3-2 pitch to David Wright, with Murphy and Francoeur to follow, and K-Rod getting ready in the bullpen. Breaking ball, bounced foul. And Matt Herges lives with his curveball. There, change up to David. Well, Frankie getting himself ready. He'll be looking for his 29th save unless the Mets tack on a run here in the 9th. Again, the 3-2, and again, it's fouled off. Well, David has jumped right back in with both feet. Got a base hit his first time up on Tuesday. Has had a couple of headfirst slides. Made a diving stop at third base. He has a single and a double and a sacrifice fly today. Almost had a third hit, but Gonzalez made a great catch on the sac fly. And he has his third hit there as he goes the other way. Well, David Wright has used right field very effectively today. A 3-hit afternoon.
All the opposite field today. Fights off that ball inside, and there he goes. Right, that's a pretty good pitch right there. Nice hitting.
So Wright 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. That's his average up to 327 on the year. Daniel Murphy coming up, but first Jim Tracy's going to make a pitching change with the Mets up 6-3 in the 9th. On to face Daniel Murphy with a man aboard. And chases David Wright back to the bag.
There's Beimel's numbers right there. They got him from the Nationals. Remember, he was kind of in limbo with the Dodgers last year. Was a free agent. No one picked him up, and the Nationals got him late. And Colorado picked him up at the deadline. And he is a left-handed specialist. Unorthodox delivery to home plate, and lots of tattoos.
Will always be remembered in Mets lore for his encounter with a glass in a bar right before the postseason in 2006. Cut his hand, was unavailable for the Dodgers in that series against the Mets, and forced the Dodgers to go in very different fashion from the left side of their bullpen. They had to use Mark Hendrickson in that role. Mets wound up sweeping the Dodgers in 3 games. Not necessarily because Beimel wasn't there, but certainly they could have used his presence. Quick throw to first, and Wright has to scramble back. And to make it worse, he first told a fib about how he cut his hand before he owned up to the bar glass truth. 1-1 to Murphy. And the fastball away, 2-1. Rockies bullpen continues to work with Frank Cora on deck. This might be a 1-batter assignment for Beimel. They've got the right-hander Matt Daly up now. And Murphy watches wide, and Beimel's behind 3-1. Mets have already banged out 14 hits today, including 3 apiece for Pagan and Wright. Here's Daly up in the Colorado bullpen, the Garden City High School product.
Is he going to make another pitching change here?
Bet he does.
Oh, jeez.
3-1. And Murphy hits it in the air to deep right field. Back goes Spilborghs at the track, at the wall. It's out of here. Daniel Murphy with a 2-run homer, his 8th of the year, and that gives the Mets some icing. They now lead at 8-3. Now that'll make Pat Mish feel a little more comfortable. Murphy's second extra base hit of the day, doubled back in the second, and now a 2-run homer gives the Mets a 5-run lead.
Well, fell behind the count, and there's a young man very happy.
That first major league victory is ever closer for Pat Mish. So Beimel will now stay in to face Jeff Francoeur with the horse out of the barn.
Here's the 3-1 pitch. Oh, fastball up and down the pipe. Nicely done, Mr. Murph. Right there. Got that one covered right down the pipe.
8th of the year for Murphy, the 5th given up by Beimel. Mets now with 8 runs and 15 hits. Francoeur is 1 for 3, had an infield single to drive in a run in the 5th inning. For Daniel Murphy, that's his 3rd home run off a left-hander this season.
Well, look at Mr. Beimel. He knows, especially up here.
On sound alone. 2-2 to Francoeur. Well, in the bottom of the 9th, the Rockies will have Spilborghs, Smith, and Iannetta to do. We'll see whether Jerry decides to use K-Rod, even though this is now a non-save situation. 2-2 for Beimel. And Francoeur gulfs one out to right field. Back to the track goes Spilborghs at the wall. He makes the leaping grab.
Another nice catch by this outfield core the Rockies have put out here for the. This is not that tough a catch, but it's not an easy one. They've displayed some good defense in the outfield.
That's the first out of the inning. And now Corey Sullivan will step in. Sullivan 1 for 4, drove in the first Met run with a second inning single. And a fastball for a strike.
How many home runs is that for Murph now in the year?
That's 8. Now it's 49 RBIs. 0-2 to Sullivan. Well, if the Rockies lose this game, that gives the Giants an opportunity tonight to pull back into a wild card tie, and they've got Tim Lincecum pitching in Philadelphia
against Pedro.
Cy Young against Cy Young. Popped up, foul, third base side, and Stewart watches it go out of play, or should I say, Cy Young against Cy not so young.
Triple side.
That's true too. Josh Tolle has had himself a fine first day in the big leagues, waiting on deck. One and 2 to Sullivan. Jason Marquis started, went 5 innings for the Rockies, allowed 5 runs and 9 hits. Joel Peralta an inning and a third, 1 run, 2 hits. Randy Flores struck out the only man to face him. Juan Rincon went a third. Matt Hergis charged with a run here. Went an inning plus. Sullivan muscles 1 out to left, and Smith is there. 2 out. So now 2 away, and Josh Tolle will face a left-hander for the first time. Tolle hit very well against lefties in Double-A this year, but this isn't Double-A. Josh sat out for 3 weeks with a dislocated thumb back in the early part of July. It cost him a trip to the Double-A All-Star game. Josh Tolle, born the day of the Mets parade in 1986.
I vaguely remember that.
Well, at some point he will, one would hope, form a battery with Jonathan Neese, who was born 1 day earlier on the day of Game 7.
So this game just slowed down to a standstill, didn't it? Goodness.
Just a tad.
Uncle.
Two and 1 to Tolle. And he hits this one along the left field line. Smith getting over and watching it sail out of play. 2 and 2. And Tolle was running it out all the way. Was halfway to second base and comes on back. Ken Takahashi up in the Mets bullpen. Looks like he might get the 9th inning assignment now with a 5-run lead. 2-2 to Tolle, and a curveball outside. On 3 and 2, Tolle fouls it back. I can't remember the last time I saw a kid come out of the minor leagues choking up on the bat like this. This doesn't happen much anymore.
And you would have thought with Barry Bonds,
You're right,
that Barry Bonds would have had, who choked up, would have had, you know, a big influence on young kids that have idolized him coming up.
I mean, he's way up on that bat. And that gives him the bat control to foul balls off and stay in there a little longer.
That's right.
Wilson Valdez on deck.
The Mets are flying home tonight. They're hoping to get in at an early hour. They shut down LaGuardia at night, and Charlie's hopeful to get this crew showered and out to the airport in time for to land at LaGuardia before it closes. Otherwise, it's off to JFK.
Tolley hits one to center field, chasing Gonzalez back, and he can't get it, and it hops over the fence for a ground rule double. So Josh Tolley has his first big league extra base hit, adding to his first day resume. He already has a single, a stolen base, and now a double. And he's 2 for 5.
Well, nicely done here. Fought off all those pitches and then gets one belt high. Oh my goodness, here comes Mr. Tracy.
Well, Gonzalez was playing shallow because the scouting report is that Tolley doesn't hit with much power, but he hit that one 400 feet. And so the agony continues for Beimel, although it'll end now because he'll exit, and Matt Daly will be the 7th Rockies pitcher. 8-3 Mets. We'll be right back. The Rockies here in the 9th. The 7th Colorado pitcher comes in to face Wilson Valdez with 2 out and a runner at second, and Valdez takes a strike.
Fogg made the spot start when Aaron Cook went on the disabled list, and he got rocked, and I think that made general manager Jim O'Dowd to make a move for Mr. Contreras from the White Sox. They're going to.
Contreras will start Saturday against Arizona to fill that 5th spot until Cook is ready to come back.
And Cook looks like he's not going to be back very quick.
Having problems with his shoulder.
So they've lost 2 of their best pitchers, Street and Cook, down the stretch here.
Street, they hope, will just be a few days. Valdez bounces one out to Tulowitzki, and that'll do it for the top of the 9th. But the Mets carry a 5-run lead into the bottom of the 9th in Denver. 5-run lead. Pedro pitched the 8th, gave up a Clint Barmas home run. Ryan Spilborgh's up to start the 9th, and he takes ball 1 from Feliciano. Feliciano came in with the game 6-2, gave up the Barmas home run, but then Murphy's 2-run homer made it 8-3. So it's not a save situation for Feliciano, who came in with a 4-run lead, but trying to pitch 2 innings to finish up. Spilborghs has gone 0 for 3 today. All 3 Colorado runs coming on solo home runs. Iannetta and Stewart went back-to-back in the 7th against Pat Mish, who stands to get his first big league win. Two and two now to Spilborghs. And Pat Mish has not gone to shower, not gone to ice his arm. He has hung around the dugout for 2 innings now, waiting to see if the Mets can preserve his win. Change up, and he struck him out. Feliciano gets Spilborghs. 1 down in the last of the 9th. Right after Keith and I are done here, be sure to join Chris Carlin and Ron Darling for all of today's highlights, exclusive interviews, Jerry's post-game reactions, and of course, you'll hear from Pat Mish on the occasion of what could well be his first big league win. Lincoln Mercury post-game live right after today's game, and after all 162 Mets games right here on SNY. I'm sure you'll hear from Josh Tolley as well, his first day in the big leagues. I'm sure you'll hear from David Wright about why he ditched the big helmet, and David responding with a 3-hit day, driving in 3 runs.
Well, maybe the great Gazoo got taken back up to his planet. Did enough good deeds.
Smith grounds 1 out to Hernandez, and quickly there are 2 down in the last of the 9th. And so the Rockies are down to their final out. I don't know, the Gazoo was too lazy to ever get it.
It was extremely lazy.
So now Iannetta, who broke up the shutout in the 7th inning with his 15th home run of the season. Mets have out hit the Rockies today 16-5. Mets head home to play the Cubs. The Rockies will remain home to play the Diamondbacks this weekend. They've got Arizona and Cincinnati coming in on this homestand, and
they've got to make hay.
They really do. There's a strike, 2-1.
They are a team that has not played well in division. They're 24-30 in division, and only 3-12 against the Dodgers.
And of course, they finished the season in Los Angeles. But as we talked about last night, if the Dodgers take care of business and wrap things up before that final weekend, that might work to the Rockies' advantage in terms of being able to secure the wild card if that's still up for grabs.
Well, I still think that they're going to have a lot of teams that are the front-running teams, and the division leaders are going to be fighting for the best record.
Iannetta hits one to right field. Francoeur back to the wall, and it's off the fence. Bouncing away from him. Iannetta's going to try for 3 and make it easily, as Francoeur just now picks up the ball, and Iannetta has his 2nd triple of the year.
Boy, did that ball carry him off that wall?
You've got the scoreboard fence out there, and many different ways it can bounce depending on where it hits. And it hit that hard piece right there and just kept on rolling, and nobody really went out and gave Francoeur much help until the last moment. So the Rockies stay alive. Iannetta with a home run and a triple today. And now Ian Stewart, who homered his last time up, his 20th of the year. Feliciano trying to put this game to bed. And Stewart takes ball 1. If Stewart keeps it going, your Torrealba has come out on deck to pinch hit. And now it's 2-0. And this may be a case for Frankie Rodriguez after all.
No. Feliciano's going to take care of business.
Well, Frankie's staying ready just in case. Here's a strike, 2-1. Pat Mish can barely look. He's been waiting a long time for this. And he only has to wait one more strike. Pat Mish pitched his first big league game in 2006. And he's one strike away from his first win. Two to Stewart. And the breaking ball misses, ball 3. Three-two from Feliciano. Struck him out, and the ball game is over. Pat Mish has his first major league victory. Josh Tolley emerges on the big league scene with 2 hits. David Wright drives in 3 runs. And for the 5th straight road series, the Mets avoid a sweep in the final game as they beat the Rockies today 8-3.
Well, every Met in the lineup, the starting lineup today, had a hit.